Well, hey there, and welcome to this episode. And before we get to the main conversation with Brian, I am so excited to announce that today is the official launch of Church Advance HQ. You've been hearing about this for several months now. We've been highlighting some features on the past few episodes, but today is official launch day for you to sign up. Church Advance started as the conference there in Jacksonville at River City as Brian's vision to bring together pastors and church leaders for an advance in the gospel and the church. And we're really excited to see this now evolve into something even more where we can help churches and pastors like you on a more personal and regular basis. Of course, the conference is included as part of Church Advance HQ. If you sign up, you'll automatically get free admission to the conference. But beyond that, the focus of Church Advance, the flagship feature, if you will, is the coaching aspect. With this, you're going to get access to personalized coaching with Brian, myself, and others, where we can help walk you through certain things you may be facing, maybe in the area of your leadership, administration, maybe in the area of your preaching, maybe in the area of your media, your marketing, your outreach, or something like your budget and your finances. Whatever it may be, we are here and ready to help walk you through it. Along with that, though, we also have courses that we will be providing for you to watch on demand whenever you would like. Courses that cover many of the topics I've already mentioned and more. So whether you're wanting to schedule that personalized one-to-one coaching session or watch some type of content that may help you with whatever you are needing help with, we have something in Church Advance HQ to support you and your church. Now, let's talk about the cost. A lot of times you are going to go to just one conference and you're going to pay hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars just to attend a short 2, 3, maybe 4-day event. Well, the cost of Church Advance HQ is a fraction of the cost of maybe one of those bigger conferences, but you're getting so much more than just the conference. The cost of Church Advance HQ is $4.99, and you're getting 90 days of access to the coaching with Brian, myself, and others. And then you're also getting with that cost lifetime access to all of the courses. And then of course, you're getting admission to the Church Advance conference next February. So that's $4.99. The cost of maybe one mid-level conference or a fraction of the cost of maybe a larger conference. You're getting the conference, the coaching, and again, this is a one-time payment, $4.99. There's no subscription or membership right off the bat. It's just something that you sign up for, you pay for one time, and you get access to everything. 90 days of coaching, the conference in February, and you're actually getting a lifetime access to all of the courses, including courses by H.B. Charles, Nate Skelly, Kurt Skelly, myself, and of course, Brian Sams. We are really excited once again to be launching Church Advance HQ. And I know that Brian, as well as myself and the others involved, really look forward to helping your church continue to advance that reformation of fellowship, partnership, and gospel hope. That's what Church Advance is all about, and that's what Church Advance HQ will be all about. If you're ready to get signed up, simply head over to churchadvancehq.com. That's churchadvancehq.com, where for a low price of $4.99, you're going to get access to coaching, courses, and of course the Church Advance Conference. I really look forward to serving you and your church, and I know Brian does too. Speaking of which, let's get to our conversation for today's episode as we continue to advance that reformation of fellowship, partnership, and gospel hope amongst Bible-believing pastors and churches. This is Church Advance.
Luke, I get conversation. I've had these kinds of conversations all the time. Something I just wanted to bring to the air. I mean, I can't. I would lose count how many times I've had this conversation related to my affiliation with the Southern Baptist Convention and what that's like. And I found a couple different things are intriguing about these conversations. One is the overwhelming misconceptions. People just don't understand the nature of the partnership. I don't really want to talk about that today. I will get to that at some point. I'd like us to talk about these common misconceptions. I had a conversation with one fellow one time, and he was going on and on and on about his reasons why he thought this was a bad idea. And I finally stopped him and I said, "Look, man, I want to tell you this, and I'm your friend, and I respect you." I said, "But you don't actually know what you're talking about. And I think it would be better for you to go do some reading and some research and get yourself educated because it's not going to sound good for you to take this kind of thing like publicly and start talking about it because you're really behind. And bad information leads to bad decisions. And so I look, I know there's some misconceptions, particularly among independent guys, and it's not always just it's always not necessarily misconception all the time. Sometimes it's just not no conception at all. They just don't really genuinely don't know.
Hmm.
But I've been now 4 years. For the last 4 years, I've been our church myself have been affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention, and I just want people to know I love it. I think there's a lot of really great things about it. I know it's not for everybody. I mean, most of my friends are independent. I know that shockwaves so many people when you come to the conferences at my church more times than not, it's an independent Baptist speaker at our church. I have a few Southern Baptist friends that are also really great preachers that I have. I preach for some of them. But my major pool of friendships and people is are they're still independent. Now they're friendly and they're not legalistic and they don't the fact that I'm a Southern Baptist church, it doesn't bother them necessarily, and that's a good thing. But there are some things that I have enjoyed that I just thought, you know what, I think I want to share some of those. And they again, not for everybody, but things that have been a benefit to me. Okay, so first thing that really came to my mind was I have appreciated the North American Mission Board church planning path. We one of the greatest things about the SBC is its organizational approach to planning churches and sending missionaries. And I've now been through three different guys through what's called the North American Mission Board assessment, whereby they get evaluated and assessed, encouraged, and supported by the North American Mission Board. And I got to tell you, I've often sat there at these things and wondered why doesn't everybody do some level of this? Because I think it really helps you evaluate readiness, and it's just a healthy process they go through. So basically, if I want to be a church planner through the North American Mission Board, I'm going to make an application. I'm going to go through some questionnaires, some discussions. Then I'm going to go to an assessment retreat where I'm going to be evaluated psychologically, my marriage, my preaching, my ministry philosophy, and I'm going to have interviews for 2 full days. And then I'm going to receive an assessment from trained people as to readiness. And then based on that readiness, I then become a partner with the North American Mission Board. And when that happens, there's two positive things that happen. One is there's a great support structure. Um, it's not full support, but it's really helpful support, financial support, and then encouragement. I mean, man, I know our church planners have received opportunities to go to specialized training, take their wives on getaways, gift cards, and other things that help them, books sent to them, people calling, intentionally checking on them. It's a much higher level of involvement and encouragement than I was used to seeing prior to me being a part of the SBC world and church planning.
Hmm.
So that's a big deal to me, right out the gate.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's like you said, um, there's a lot of criticism out there about the SBC amongst the independents, and it's aspects like that. that don't even make the conversation. Usually, the typical, I guess, kind of a hate, if you will, at least this is what I was taught is, well, the SBC, they kind of treat them like the United Methodists, like it's all one, or the Catholics even, like it's all
Mm.
one big organization, and the head guy is, deciding and owning the land of the churches and closing down churches whenever they feel like it, and as if it's some
Mm.
authoritarian regime. And it's these, like I said, these benefits, there's like the assessment and things like that you're talking about, and obviously other things you're going to talk about. It's like, no, it's to support churches, and
That's
the
exactly what it is.
churches are the ones calling the shots. The president of the
Yeah.
SBC is only there because the churches allow. So, anyways, it's just a
Yeah.
big
Well,
common
that's a great
misconception.
point, and it is a huge misconception, and I think it is important for people to understand that there is complete autonomy. A convention does not own properties. The convention does not set individual local church direction.
Mhm.
Rather, as you said, the churches set the direction of the convention, and it's a beautiful thing. But I just love this missions and church plant thing. And then on, kind of coming in right behind the North American Mission Board is the idea of the International Mission Board. Now, North American Mission Board is for church planting, obviously in North America. The International Mission Board is what we would think of as traditional missions, sending
Mhm.
missionaries overseas. The thing I love about that is they have an extensive training program. And then, probably the greatest benefit to this is you're fully supported. There is no
Mhm.
deputation. And it's not just support like monthly support, it's team support,
Mhm.
it's regional catalyst support. I've got a close friend that's a missionary, IMB missionary in India, and his daughter had ended up with a brain tumor. And I mean, the International Mission Board got them on a plane, got them home, got them the care that they needed, just like that, no strings attached. It's a support system,
Mhm.
and you're not going to go out to the field alone, undertrained, undersupported. You think I literally, Luke, today, right before we got on the air, the reason I was late today is because I forgot there was a missionary that was supposed to be stopping by. The poor guy is on the field right now, been on the field. He's at 60%. 60%. Can you imagine right now you trying to live on 60% of what you
Yeah,
needed?
yeah, that's
Well, he is. He is. How does that happen? It happens when you don't have an appropriate network helping you. And he's a good guy, man. I mean, I just
mhm.
enjoyed the conversation with him. But it saddens me. And we know some of the tragic stories of guys that tried to go to missions the independent way, deputation, all that sort of thing. And this path makes missions much more doable, I think. And from the largest Protestant resource in the world, the cooperative program, where churches pool their resources together to fund those operations.
Yeah, and
And you cannot top that.
yeah. And again, another misconception is that, well, yeah, if I am a part of the SBC, then they're just going to take all my missions money. And again, again, and Brian, you're going to know better than I do, but from what I understand, your missions involvement and giving and contributions to the programs that they offer is completely up to you. I've heard of churches, and so with that in mind, I'll just ask you, does your church also, I mean, you're glad to be a part of what the SBC offers, but you have independent kind of missionaries that you independently support,
Absolutely.
if I remember right.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that's a total misconception, all of your missions dollars. No, there is no requirement. Nobody's
Mhm.
standing over my shoulder telling me there's this much you have to give to the cooperative I could give nothing to the cooperative program. But yes, we do support several outside missionaries, three from our church that are on the
Mhm.
field that we support at about 20% of their total support ourselves. So it's
Mhm.
not an either or, it's a both and from our perspective. Now, to be fair, I do think there are some churches, SBC churches, that only do like 10% of their undesignated receipts to the cooperative program, and that's the extent of their missions. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that in my book. Uh, I think that's great. But I think that we want to do more and we want to be more involved. And so, but that's our freedom. And it really help. And by the way, that just I mean, that just speaks to another thing I really love is the broadness of the movement. Now
Mm,
I used to value narrowness. I think now I value broadness
yeah.
far more than narrowness. And I've said this before, but I think it's just worth saying again. The difference between an independent Baptist and a Southern Baptist is that if you're a Southern Baptist, you can disagree with somebody else and still work together.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the fundamental difference. And I was just talking to somebody again yesterday. The guy called me. It kind of made me think about this freshly, and he was asking about. He asked me this question: "What do you think about complementarian and egalitarianism within the convention?" I said what I think is I think they have a healthy plan to number one, not plant new churches that have egalitarian leadership or women pastors. I said, and they also have a healthy plan to remove churches who
Mm,
have gone that way. And I mean, just this past year, Saddleback Church was removed from the SBC for ordaining a woman pastor. That's the way it's
mhm.
supposed to be, man. And there's a huge process by which this takes place. But outside of those big ticket items, uh, women pastors, Jesus being the savior, more big. There's latitude for concerning tertiary issues, and
Mhm.
yes, there's broad differences in the SB. You're going to find guys that are heavily Calvinistic. You're going to find guys that are not, and yet they're still working together within the umbrella for the cause of the gospel. Now, are there some, fringe people in the SBC? Of course. Are there fringe people in the independents? Of course.
Yeah.
And judging our solidness by our fringe is always a bad idea. But I appreciate that. I thank God that we don't have to have the same uniform on to
Yeah.
be playing on God's big team. It's a big team out there, and you may have a varying opinion on creation. You may have a varying opinion on translations. You may have a varying opinion on, modesty as far as dress in church or music styles.
Mhm.
You see everything in the SBC. There's King James only SBC churches. There's non, of course. You see conservative music. You see crazy music. You see
Mhm.
all of it. And I just like the fact that that can exist and still send missionaries together and still send pastors together and still plant churches together. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that from a perspective of what do I love about it. That's one of the things I love about it. Number two, next I would just say I can tell you that I have received personal encouragement from my local friends that are SBC, the people, our regional catalyst, our local uh, catalyst for the city of Jacksonville. I mean, I remember this is just a really cool story. I just kind of got involved. I've still never been to a Southern Baptist convention yet. That 4 years
Mhm.
later, but our regional catalyst called me and said, "Brian, would you like to go to the SBC?" And I said, "Oh man, yeah, absolutely." They sent me a check to pay for me to go completely, and my
Wow.
wife, flights, lodging, all of it. Well, here's the thing as it turned out, I was unable to go for one reason or another. So I called the guy back and said, "Hey, where can I send this check? A check back to you. I'm just not gonna be able to make it. Thank you, but it's a schedule conflict." He said, "Hey, I want you to take that money and use it to take your wife on a trip and
Wow.
to get away." And I was able to use that money to take my wife to my graduate from my doctorate degree. We were able to spend the
Mm.
weekend together, and it was all taken care of. And there's that. I mean, that's just a small thing, but I mean, man, the amount of times I've had people support a cause that we were working on. The Florida Baptist Convention helped us as a church revitalization project, helped us build a new playground,
Mm.
just helped us. I mean, with
Mhm.
no strings attached whatsoever. But it's more like checking on us. Hey, we'd like you to go to this marriage thing. We'll take care of you and your wife to go. Just really, really uh, on the front edge of trying to be an
Yeah.
encouragement to us. I think that's a blessing.
Yeah.
And
And
oh, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, quick interjection. I would even argue that it's following a biblical pattern to some degree because I mean, this is what Paul was doing to the churches. that he, was, I mean, that's why we have the Pauline epistles. He's checking in. Sometimes, yes, he's rebuking, but many times he's encouraging and he's trying to help. And it's like that was, kind of his ministry to those churches was to help the pastors and the churches. And again, to me, it just seems like they're kind of following a little bit of that biblical precedent.
Well, they're definitely following Philippians 1:27 when it comes to cooperation, striving together for
Yeah.
the faith of the gospel. I mean, there you can't deny that. Here's another thing a lot of people don't know. This is just a blessing of being a part. If you have a member or yourself that want to go to seminary, there is a 50% tuition discount for members of SBC to go to the big seminaries. That's a huge educational benefit. Here's another one that I've just greatly benefited from. I have been given many opportunities for personal and pastoral development. I mean, I have been to many seminars, many talks uh, from the SBC local, um, and man, and I mean, we even had some assistance in a legal matter when we were acquiring some property, and an SBC related legal person helped us with that. I mean, it was a huge benefit and blessing. And I'll say this too: I found out later that when we were going through the purchase of our building, that we were able to bypass the bank and use the Florida Baptist Financial Services to fund our building project. Now, here's the cool thing
Hmm.
about that. The interest we pay on our building, I mean, it's very similar to a bank note, but it's through the Florida Baptist Financial Services. The interest we pay on the note goes to fund more churches getting planted. How cool is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
How cool is, and that's not even an SBC entity. It's just affiliated. But think about that. Think about instead of paying 8% to a bank to make the Chase elite rich,
Hmm.
the same interest rate is going to further allow other churches to be able to do the same thing, to build
Yeah.
their church where if they were just trying to go to a mainstream church or something, they would not have a chance because they don't have the reputable finances or whatever they need. That's just another really cool thing about it. And so I appreciate feeling like I can be a part of something that has a large scale magnitude influence on the gospel and has so many things related to helping others, other churches, other individuals, and pastors, including myself. It's just an encouraging place to be, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, and
Yeah.
I don't ever feel like I'm warring against somebody. I don't ever feel like I'm fighting somebody. I don't feel like I'm trying to establish who I am. Having to clarify my position about A, B, C, or D. These guys welcomed me in when I was King James, and we were independent. We were very conservative, and I was asking them a billion questions,
Yeah.
and I was not treated like an outsider in any way, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So for those reasons, my experience has been nothing but absolutely encouraging. I'm thankful for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's a lot more reasons you could give of why you've enjoyed, being a part of the SBC there. But I think this has been really insightful. And I know that, back over the summer, we re-released it was a monologue actually that you gave in response to Paul Chappell's blog about the SBC, and you kind of refuted some things there. So if anybody's interested in maybe learning more about Brian's take on that, you can go look those episodes up. But yeah, I think this was really insightful, Brian. It was a good conversation.
Amen. Hey, listen, you guys have a great day out there. Me and Luke enjoy serving you, and we'll see you next episode. God bless you guys.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode. And remember, you can register for Church Advance HQ right now and get access to the conference in February, as well as courses and personalized coaching, all for the low price of $4.99. That's a one-time payment for 90 days of coaching, the February conference, and lifetime access to the courses. Simply head over to churchadvancehq.com to get signed up today. That's churchadvancehq.com, and I look forward to seeing you there. And thanks so much for joining us for this episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to advance a reformation of fellowship, partnership, and gospel hope amongst Bible-believing pastors and churches right here on Church Advance.